Israel's military struck the Syrian Defense Ministry in Damascus and government forces in southern Syria for a third day on Wednesday, as deadly sectarian fighting in the mostly Druze province of Suwaida continued. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said it was working to save our Druze brothers. Interim Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara accused Israel of causing a large-scale escalation. More than 350 people are reported to have been killed since Sunday, when clashes between Druze militias and Bedouin tribes erupted in Suwaida. The Syrian military reportedly began to withdraw its forces from Suwaida late on Wednesday, as the U.S. said it had agreed steps to end the violence. We have agreed on specific steps that will bring this troubling and horrifying situation to an end tonight, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio wrote on X. Syria's state news agency, SANA, reported that troops were leaving Suwaida as part of an agreement between the government and the Suwaida's religious leaders, following the completion of the army's pursuit of outlaw groups. The Syrian Foreign Ministry said the country welcomes the efforts made by the U.S. and Arabian sides to resolve the current crisis peacefully. Israel has not yet commented on the ceasefire efforts. The Israeli military began striking Syrian security forces and their weapons on Monday, after they were deployed to the city of Suwaida for the first time since Sunni Islamist-led rebels overthrew President Bashar al-Assad in December. Minority groups including the Druze, whose religion is an offshoot of Shia Islam with its own unique identity and beliefs, are suspicious of Shara and his government, despite his pledges to protect them. Their fears have been heightened by several outbreaks of sectarian violence over the past 8 months, including one in May in which dozens of people were reportedly killed in clashes between Druze security forces and allied Islamist fighters in Damascus and Suwaida. In the wake of that fighting, the government reached an agreement with Druze militias to hire local security forces in Suwaida province from their ranks. The continued control of Suwaida by the militias sparked tensions with Bedouin tribes backed by the government. Netanyahu has said he is committed to preventing harm to the Druze in Syria because of their deep ties to those living in Israel and the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights. Hundreds of Druze crossed the heavily fortified frontier with Syria on Wednesday, prompting Israeli troops to fire tear gas in an attempt to stop them. Netanyahu urged those with Israeli citizenship to return to your homes and let the Israeli military take action. Israel said the significant escalation of its bombing campaign was aimed at making the Syrian government immediately withdraw its forces from Suwaida province. Defense Minister Israel Katz wrote on X on Wednesday afternoon that the warnings in Damascus had ended and that the Israeli military would continue to operate vigorously in Suwaida to destroy the forces that attacked the Druze until they withdraw completely. He later posted that the painful blows have begun, above a video clip showing a TV presenter diving under a desk live on camera as an Israeli airstrike hit the nearby entrance to the Syrian Defense Ministry in Umayyad Square, in central Damascus where huge crowds celebrated Assad's downfall last year. A separate strike on what the Israeli military called a military target in the area of the presidential palace underscored the severity of Israel's warning to Shara. Fadi al-Halabi, a London-based Syrian filmmaker who is visiting Damascus, said he was nearby when he heard the Israeli fighter jets approach. People's faces were so afraid. Everyone started running in the street. No one knew where to go. Suddenly the airstrikes began, targeting some of the most crowded areas, including the Ministry of Defense, he told the U.S. The Israeli military said it also struck armored vehicles loaded with heavy machine guns and weapons on their way to Suwaida, and firing posts and weapons storage facilities in southern Syria. Syria's foreign ministry said the strikes targeted government institutions and civilian facilities in Damascus and Suwaida and killed several innocent civilians. This flagrant assault, which forms part of a deliberate policy pursued by the Israeli entity to inflame tensions, spread chaos, and undermine security and stability in Syria, constitutes a blatant violation of the United Nations Charter and international humanitarian law, it added. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, SOR, a UK-based monitoring group, meanwhile reported that the humanitarian situation in Suwaida city had rapidly deteriorated. It cited sources as saying there were clashes in several areas of the city and that tanks had attacked the national hospital, causing panic among the scores of casualties from the fighting being treated there. They also said there were acute shortages of water and medical supplies. Later, the Syrian Health Ministry said government forces had entered the hospital and found dozens of bodies after outlaw groups withdrew, according to the official Sanaa news agency. A man named Hossam told the U.S. he was in the center of Suwaida city and had witnessed civilians coming under fire from artillery and snipers. "I lost my neighbor today on the street. One of the snipers shot him. We tried to get an ambulance to take him to hospital, but we couldn't," he said. Other witnesses and local activists have described scenes of looting and extrajudicial killings. The source says more than 350 people have been killed since Sunday in Suwaida province. They include 79 Druze fighters and 55 civilians, 27 of whom were summarily killed by Interior Ministry and Defense Ministry forces, according to the group. At least 189 members of the government forces and 18 Bedouin tribal fighters have also been killed in the clashes, it says. It was not immediately possible to verify the source casualty figures, but Syrian security sources also told the U.S. on Wednesday that the death toll was close to 300. The fighting between Bedouin tribes and Druze militias in Suwaida is said to have been sparked by the abduction of a Druze merchant on the highway to Damascus last Friday. On Sunday, armed Druze fighters reportedly encircled and later seized a neighborhood of Suwaida city that is inhabited by Bedouin. The clashes soon spread into other parts of Suwaida province, with tribesmen reportedly launching attacks on nearby Druze towns and villages. Syria's Interior Ministry later announced that its forces and those of the Defense Ministry would intervene and impose order, saying the dangerous escalation comes in light of the absence of relevant official institutions. However, they were soon accused by Druze residents of looting, setting homes on fire, and humiliating community leaders. Earlier this year, Israel's Prime Minister demanded the complete demilitarization of Suwaida and 2 other southern provinces. He said Israel saw President Sharaz Sunni Islamist group, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS, as a threat. HTS is a former al-Qaeda affiliate that is still designated as a terrorist organization by the UN and UK, but no longer by the US. The Israeli military has already carried out hundreds of strikes across Syria to destroy the country's military assets since the fall of the Assad regime. And it has sent troops into the unmonitored demilitarized buffer zone between the occupied Golan Heights and Syria, as well as several adjoining areas and the summit of Mount Hermon.